All right, guys. Big hand for Laura. Laura did an amazing job organizing this, and it's standing room only, so hands together for Laura again. All right. So I'm Ben Congleton. I'm the Chief Executive Olarker at Olark. We make really simple live chat. But most of this panel is just going to be these guys talking. And I'm going to keep the introductions really brief. But basically the idea is we're going to ask questions about building cultures of customer service inside your organization, from your support team to your entire organization. And at the end, we're going to have time for you guys to ask questions. It should be a really interesting discussion. So with me, I have Ashley King, who is head of customer support at 99 Designs. I have Cesar, who is head of customer wow at desk.com. If you want to raise your hand, wave around, yeah. I also have Amy, who is director of community and customer success at Automatic, the connected driving device, who also co-founded Get Satisfaction. And I have Travis, who was hard to describe, but has built multiple customer service teams and has moved from customer service into software development. And so they will be sort of discussing these ideas around customer service for you guys today. So to sort of kick things off, so Cesar, so you work at Desk.com, which is inside Salesforce. How do you keep the culture of customer service alive inside such a huge freaking company?
So, is this on?
Hit the mute button.
All right. So it's actually not that difficult because we have great leadership. So our executive team basically does a lot of the work for us. So first, the name Customer Wow, it's before my time. It's meant to give us the goal of wowing our customers, right? And so it's actually a big brand for our company itself. So if you ever see any brochures or any press releases, they always talk about Customer Wow. So the idea of customer support is already ingrained just by the way our executive team, uses us. The other thing we try and do is we try and integrate ourselves into other teams. So at some point we try to get other development teams, product teams to integrate into us. But we had a bigger vested interest in being part of some of those discussions. So we actually do a good job of integrating ourselves into those discussions. So we have, visibility into each team's head, lead, and we also provide good, interesting insights to the other team members. So they actually look at the Customer Wow team as a source of product knowledge, good insights that are actually useful for them to do their job. So that's how we're able to remind the entire company that it's really important to have a good and strong customer support team.
You guys can chime in too. You don't have to though. All right. So before this, Travis, you talked about how at Rackspace, sort of the idea of having a strong customer culture is more than just having a really strong customer service team. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So at Rackspace, we have a series of core values that really connect with customer service. Fanatical support, results, substance over flash, results first. All of our core values, are centered around, helping a customer, and every person within our organization, they rally around those particular core values, and so you naturally build this culture within the company that everyone just wants to help that customer succeed. When you're talking to a customer, whether you're in accounting, whether you're on the support floor or anywhere within the organization, you're rallying around those particular core values. You're wanting to help that customer. If they're on the brink of success or failure, right? And you want to create that connection and bring them to success. Don't let them fail, right?
Any additions?
So at 99 Designs, we put a huge emphasis on quality. Of course, people come to us because they need to get designs for their business, and we want to provide quality design to them through our community of designers. But we also need to provide a huge sense of quality in our customer support. And so what we've done at 99 Designs, we've grown pretty quickly from 17 people to over 100 people in a short period of time, is making sure that every person that comes to develop for 99 Designs, work in marketing or anything in between, shadows customer support, does customer support, and actively is on a yearly basis running projects with us to make sure we're eating our own dog food. And from that, we go ahead and we make sure that the rest of the company, because we're spread across multiple countries, everyone listens. And so as customer support members, one of the biggest things is listening to your customers' problems. Well, internally, we're our dev team and our product team's customer. So helping them to understand how to best listen to us, making sure that we're providing feedback that is from the customer. It's not just because I want this cool new feature. It's because I've heard 1,000 people this week say, hey, do this. And then we say this is the best way to implement it. So quality is first and foremost one of the main things that really resonates with every aspect of our business, internal and external.
So I've always really been inspired by Zappos. And they had a program, I'm not sure if they still do it, but I know that they did for a long, long time, where every new employee had to spend time doing customer support for a certain amount of time before they actually got to go and do the job they were hired to do, which I think is brilliant because it really helps each of those new employees develop empathy for the customer, also really understand the product. And so, I had the good fortune when I joined Automatic of getting to create a department because it didn't exist yet. We weren't even shipping product when I joined. So, of course, one of the first things I did was to set up a Get Satisfaction community as the heart of our customer success ecosystem, along with a lot of other great tools. And something that I've employed is that every new employee who joins Automatic goes through community training. So they all get trained. They get a whole orientation of how the customer success team thinks about our customers, how we support our customers, all the processes we use internally for feedback loops. And then they get trained in the community. They get an account in the community, and they are all encouraged to participate there and engage directly with customers. Which is incredibly beneficial because, of course, they then are having that front row seat. It's not just the support team that has the front row seat to what customers are experiencing and feeling and their pains and their joys and what they want to see. Everyone in the company gets that front row seat, and then customers get to hear directly from the people who are designing and building the products that they're engaging with, which is really exciting. When the customer complains about something with the Android app and our lead Android developer goes in there and answers their question, people are visibly excited that they can see it's the lead Android developer answering their question. It's not just, customer success agent. Sorry, Tom. My community manager's in the room, and he's awesome in our community. But so I just think that's just so important that from the get-go that everybody who comes into the company understands that that culture of great customer service is just in the DNA, and you inject them with it as soon as they walk in the door.
Yeah, I think a really good question as well. How do you spread a customer service culture across multiple locations? If you're familiar with Rackspace operates in multiple states and cities around the U.S. and even around the world. But more importantly, here in the U.S., if you're hired into a Rackspace office, you actually go to San Antonio to our corporate headquarters, and you spend a week there learning all about Rackspace, about all the different teams that exist within the company. You're equipped with so much information, so when you're put out into your role or your job and whatever you're doing, you have all the tools, the knowledge, and the resources to accomplish whatever task that you run into, whether it's dealing with a customer, dealing with some sort of some piece of technology or some other team throughout Rackspace. So I think that's also very important. If you're a distributed company, you should bring everyone back to the roots where the company started and talk about culture and equip everyone that comes through your front door with all the tools that they need in order to service a customer to their ability.
Can I we have one thing you just made me think of, and you mentioned culture, and I think that's like the first thing any company needs to do is make sure that they have a strong culture which is based on a mission and a vision and sort of a North Star, and it should come, everything can kind of come from that. If you've got that is clear and everybody is on board with that and understands it and groks it, and you stay true to it,
right.
And then that permeates the culture. And if you're in a business with customers, then they should be a big part of that.
I just wanted to, Amy reminded me of something that we do, which goes back to the first question about how do we maintain that culture of service. And actually, at Desk, every new person goes through what we call WOW onboarding. It goes that WOW branding again. And this includes AEs, sales executives, product managers, dev managers, even the executive team. And in that WOW onboarding, they basically go through training to understand the product. And then we actually get them on live cases. Obviously, the easier ones maybe, so we don't want to hurt our own CSAT ratings. But they actually go through live cases, and believe me, when they know they are answering a real question, they spend much more time trying to make sure that it's right. They start thinking of ideas of how they could the product could be better. So that forces them to actually think. And what we hope is that when they move on to the other teams, they maintain that empathy as we were talking about.
Quick follow-up to that would be a lot of you guys talked about onboarding processes that involve having all your new hires go and do customer service or talk directly to customers. How do you sort of keep that alive after the first week or whenever your onboarding is over?
So I have a program, and to be fair, I haven't completely implemented it yet. I can't lie because I've got Tom in the room and he'll keep me honest. But I have an idea of a program that I have announced to the company, and I just have to actually enforce it now. But it's called community service. And the idea is that, taking from Zappos, that every new employee, once they've gone through that training that I do, has to also spend few hours their first couple of weeks in the community helping. But then every employee beyond that has a requirement quarterly of spending time answering questions in the community, and helping out. And another thing we do actually right now is we use Slack as an internal communication tool. I don't know if you're all familiar with it. It's awesome. It was created by the co-founders of Flickr. And it's an internal communication, internal chat tool. You can have all your channels and your private groups and all of that. And we have a dedicated channel in there that is where my team goes when we have a question that is beyond even our technical support side of our team's ability to answer, to solve. We go into this other channel, we call it community help. And that's where other people in the company, they also are in there, and they can see our requests, and they can either, jump into the topic in the community if it's a question from a customer there, or if it's a ticket, then they can just help the agent with solving it. But it's just having that open communication line and setting that sort of protocol that this is a place everybody needs to pay attention to, and you're expected to pitch in and help us out here.
Yeah, so I actually work with a startup that we acquired called Mailgun. How many of you heard of it? We're a transactional email delivery company. And a large portion of the personnel that we have are software developers. We also have a support team. And so how do you keep the feedback loop going between support all the way up to software development? We actually implemented this, we've implemented this actually a year ago, where we had one software developer rotating in and out, but we actually expanded that to 3 just the other day. So we have 3 software developers that are allocated every day. Our software development teams are kind of dispersed between their specialties. And those 3 different specialties, they help out with support questions every single day. They interact with customers directly. So everyone within our software development organization talks to a customer at least one time a week. And that feedback loop is so great, because when you create something and you cause pain for a customer, you're now receiving that feedback loop directly, and you'll naturally go in there and try and fix it and make that particular issue go away for that customer.
All right, so we talked a lot about onboarding. So like once you've hired people, but how do you hire these people in the first place? Like, do you have any tips or tricks?
I liked what you said earlier.
Get a recruiter now. So I've gone through tons and tons of interviews. When I was working out of San Antonio, we were hiring lots of customer support representatives and just seeding the company with customer service reps. And the one thing that we were looking for in a person is, do they have a heart? You have to see, a person needs to be able to connect with a customer through the phone, through chat, or through email, right? When that particular customer is having an issue, and going back to the success or failure, you need to have an emotional connection with that particular customer during that interaction. How do you do that? Well, the person needs to care. And so when we're looking at different people, we're looking for someone with a heart. If you're trying to fill a technical support role, you can teach technical support stuff, right? And just computer science, all that stuff, right? You can learn all that stuff, but you cannot teach someone to have a heart. So that's the first thing I think we should look for. Do you want to add to that?
I just agree with that. Even if there's certain tools they need to be able to use to do their job, those can be taught. But having just an ingrained passion for problem solving and making people happy and turning a challenging situation into a win, that's what I'm looking for when I'm interviewing, or people who tell me stories about how they've done that in other areas of their life. How they've taken a situation where someone was incredibly angry and it seemed like all hope was lost, and turned that person into an advocate and an evangelist just through the way that they handled it. So that's what I look for. I don't even look that much into like having all of this pedigreed sort of specific experience. For me, it's really those qualities, and then are they articulate, and can they spell and speak clearly and communicate well. But really, it's those qualities that you either have or you don't.
And so how do you find someone that has a heart? I think that's probably the number one burning question. I think, when I'm in an interview, I think a great question is, tell me about an experience where someone helped you. How did that impact you? And listen to the response. Listen to how they respond, and see if they're able to connect, with the person that helped them. What sacrifices do they have to make in order to help that particular person? So just listen for these, these keywords and what they're actually saying and how they're describing it to you. Were they grateful for the assistance that they received? I think that's a good indicator.
One thing along with having a heart that we really look for at 99 Designs is someone who's extremely engaging. If they're going to be almost even over-engaging in person, that means that their characteristics and mannerisms are going to transfer through the phone to the customer, or through email, or through chat. We ask a lot of the same questions, but the one thing that I strive to also help my team to understand is I'm not the only one looking for the next best customer support agent to join us. We're all looking for someone to join, I guess, our cultural little support family that we have. And so I want the new people to be able to obviously help customers and go above and beyond and be creative problem solvers, but be able to be creative problem solvers internally with us as well. And so one of the things that we do is we're all always actively looking for new hires anywhere we go. So I've tried to take 2 people, but I've taken one person from the Starbucks downstairs. Anytime I'm out to dinner, or I'm at a bar, and a lot of us came from the restaurant industry when we were in college. We all waited tables and did bartending. You're keeping multiple sets of people happy at the same time and delivering great service. And so we're all actively thinking about that. I encourage all of my people on the team to carry business cards out with them. At Whole Foods the other night, the girl that was bagging the groceries was like, "You'd be great," and gave her a card. And whether or not they choose to apply is another thing. I've stopped going to Starbucks downstairs, but no, I'm kidding. But if you feel like they're going to connect with you every time they answer the phone, you want them to feel like that customer's coming out of the elevator door to greet them in person. And, understanding, you can teach everybody anything about your product. Hopefully they're all really smart, but you have to be able to engage on a higher level, both in person and through email, chat, and phone.
Awesome. Great answers. So one thing I wanted to talk a little bit more about is, so you have all these support people, you've onboarded them, et cetera. How do you sort of push innovation? I think, like, Cesar, you had some ideas about how to sort of reframe support to make it a little bit more about sort of pushing product improvements and really innovating, as opposed to just operational excellence, like just responding to tickets.
Yeah, so partly that was because that's what's interesting to me, is to do A/B testing, do data-driven decisions design, and I think the team didn't see themselves as innovators, because that's the product and the dev team's sort of realm, but I really wanted them to think of themselves as innovators, because that's the only way we're going to actually get better. So we have a side project. Well, each person can have a side project, and the way we choose those is actually each individual person chooses what their side project should be. So it's like sort of the Google model, and I tell them, look, don't choose something that you think I would want. Choose something that you're going to be excited about, because it's going to require extra work, and if you're not interested in it, you're not going to actually follow through. So with that allowance of time, we actually give them what we call project time off the phones. They're still answering email cases, but they're off the phones, which require a lot more focus, and so that they can do side projects. And out of that, we've come out with a lot of tests. Some have shown us that we didn't know what we were doing, but those are actually good tests too. So now we know, okay, that's probably not the right way to approach this. The other thing that we've been able to do is increase, for example, our knowledge base, improve the quality of our knowledge base, which in the end hopefully reduces the number of cases, and it gives us even more time to do side projects. So I think now hopefully the team does see themselves as innovators, but it's a constant thing, and I think what's even better is that the company, other teams see us as innovators, because we have come out with a lot of cool things that the product team is now, productizing. So, for example, probably should have been there a while ago, but we have CSAT, and the way we did it ourselves internally as a custom thing for ourselves. Now the product team is taking that on. We have a new responsive, template for support center sites. We did that ourselves, and now it's being productized. So that's I think that fruit of the labor of each team member's labor also helps them sort of spur more innovations.
So a good follow-up to that would be, so you mentioned like A/B testing, right? So what are some metrics that you guys look at to find out whether you're successful? And I personally, we've tried to run tests, but to determine if a test is reducing case volume is actually really tricky.
I could just follow up on that quickly. So we used to look at time to first response as our main metric, but the thing is, we were really good at it, so we always met our goal. So it wasn't actually spurring any improvement. So we went back to the standard CSAT ratings, and we were doing quite well. But I asked the team basically, what do you think we can actually achieve? And so they set a higher goal. So I got their buy-in, and so we're continuously doing things, doing tests on how to better respond to customers. We're instituting a quality control program, so now people will have random cases to review of other team members and rate them on certain metrics. That way, when it's not very useful to tell a team you should do better, but what specifically do you have to do better than you? Some people need better technical expertise. Some people need a more empathetic tone. So we're doing that. I think the one thing that I would caution is having too much focus on a single metric incentivizes weird behavior. And I'm not certain that it's bad behavior, but it is weird sometimes. The most obvious one is cherry picking, where all of a sudden this customer is going to have a tough question and he's not going to be happy with your answer. Do you answer or not? I'm not sure we know exactly how to avoid that, but just be aware that we're humans and we run into that by focusing a little too much on a CSAT rating, for example.
Can I ask you a question? When you do the peer quality assurance reviews, do you do it anonymously, or do they know what peer of theirs is giving them feedback on the quality of their responses?
They know. So we actually have two ways of doing it. One is we call a saving, like basically save a case. So we get a bad rating, it actually automatically gets assigned to another agent who then reviews the case and responds back to the customer to either say, hey, here's another option that we didn't think about, or to, it was just a bad case overall, like, let me try and take this. Then the other way is to actually have the quality control metrics, and people know who rate them. I find that a little bit better. At first, I was doing them, all the saves and reviews, and I think it made people feel like I was concentrating on only the bad things, whereas now I think they feel like they're learning from each other.
That's cool.
So you were asking about metrics, and I think you were curious about activities that teams have done that have maybe decreased, like ticket volume and that kind of thing. So so for us, it's actually been significant and even surprising to me. But since we launched Automatic and went from no customers using our product to all the customers who are using our product today, our number of tickets has actually gone down. And I attribute that to a few different things. One is we have a great in-app reporting tool and a lot of custom admin tools that we've built and dashboards for monitoring that stuff. But I also do attribute a lot of it to our community. And that, we've put our community at the top of the funnel, wherever there's a support option, and, drive as much support traffic to that as possible, where people can find their answer quickly, they can engage with others there. And it's just actually like our Zendesk ticket numbers are shocking to me how low they are. So I like sometimes I scratch my head, but I'm not gonna complain. It's cool.
So I'll actually add something there. So I work in a very technical field, right? So we get these rushes of tickets as customers increase. We have tickets increasing, and then if you have an issue, you get a rush of customers that come through. So how do you keep the quality of customer support throughout every one of those interactions? I found that so challenging. We actually use Zendesk, and there's really no good reports inside Zendesk that address quality. It's really hard to judge quality, right? Unless you're going to sit there and read every single response. So I came up with a metric. It's not necessarily bulletproof, right? There's some flaws in it, but look at how many responses it's taking for each ticket to get resolved. Now, you can sometimes have a very chatty customer, but if you average that out or look at the percentiles of the actual responses required, that gives you a good indication of how thorough you're being in your actual tickets. And we found that some people aren't so thorough. They try to get their actual total number of tickets solved up instead of actually trying to help a customer thoroughly and reduce the number of back and forth. So I think that's a great metric to go by.
Just on that note, really quickly, I used to send out weekly numbers based on, so the agents could see how many tickets they'd done, how many calls they did, etc. But then, to your point, they were focusing on quantity and not quality. And it became a race. And so I found that the guy that was doing the most, first, he was doing like 3 times more than anybody else. So I asked him if he was outsourcing his job, because he was remote, very seriously. And then I found, that his response rate wasn't very high. He was not closing customers as in anticipating their needs, asking the right questions, understanding what they needed. He was like 20 to 30% out of 100% of solving the issue, whereas the girl that had the least, she was at 92%. So when we addressed that, we were able to then similarly come up with sort of an average. Another metric that we use within support actually to relate to the product team is anytime a big release goes out, if we change part of the product that we've been advocating a change for, we'll make sure that we have a subject that's going to always be in an email about that part of the product. So if you go to our help center, you'll see that from the drop down you can select what your email is going to be about. That becomes a subject, and that's directly tied usually with a product change. So what we do is we actually use Desk and not Zendesk, but we label all of those. We're working on it too. It's still a system we're implementing, but we're labeling the tickets so that the product team can say, oh hey, we reduced what we call handover emails and questions about the handover by 30% last month, which means that I also don't need to double my team in the next year because the product is being built for the people.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Do you guys have any other techniques that you use to bring feedback to product from customer service?
Sure. So several things. Let's see. One is that twice weekly, our technical support team meets with the heads of all of our engineering teams to discuss sort of like the main bugs that they're seeing reported in the field by customers, and then we have a regular meeting with our head of product, which is more of the UX design team, to sort of do the same thing but with things that product can address. So we bring relevant current issues to him. And as I mentioned, everybody has access to the community, and we encourage them to go in there, but because we know not everybody does it as frequently as we'd like them to, my whole team pulls out anecdotes from customers from all of our channels like throughout the week, and we save them all in a Google Doc. I mean, it's very sophisticated. And so it's, from bug reports, from tickets, from Twitter, from Facebook, from the community. And then every other Friday, I send out an email to the entire company with a bunch of reports attached for people who get really excited about numbers and data. And then just, all of these anecdotes, just quotes from customers. And we categorize them by challenges, praise, ideas, and lulls, just ridiculous, hilarious things customers say. And I think that, that's the people's favorite part of that email is reading through all of those anecdotes, and, as curated by our team. And I still am a big proponent of everyone in the company having access to everything customers say, but sometimes you do have to spoon feed a little bit, and I think that really helps them to stay connected. And we had a big release last week when we released our first ever web dashboard. So took the data out of the mobile app and onto the web. And so in the email I sent on Friday, I also had special sections for feedback just about that product, about the web dashboard release, so that the product manager and designer, could see that in addition to all the other kind of general feedback.
So I've worked on the front line for several years, and I thought, one of the challenges that I always ran into was feedback and information back up. And unfortunately, it always had to go through leadership, and then leadership would get together and then discuss that feedback, right? And so, we really started talking to our leadership on the support side of things in trying to persuade them, let us come to those meetings. Why is the front line not sitting down with product managers for a particular product and, leadership beyond support? And so we did. We were able to sit down with leadership and express our concerns straight from the front lines, and that was a huge win for us. That still continues today at Rackspace now.
I was going to say, and related to that, something you said to me earlier, just about how important it is that building a culture of great customer service has to come from the top. It has to come from your CEO. Your CEO has to buy into it and be preaching it louder than anybody, and then it just can flow through.
Yep, that's totally true. If you look at any of the videos about Rackspace, you'll see our CEO, and he's just crazy, right? He's just so excited about serving a customer, and you know, you can get him on the phone if you want to. You can tweet him; he'll tweet back. He is totally engaged with our customers, and I think that's so super important. You know, your CEO, from leadership all the way down to the front lines, need to be engaged in customer service.
Awesome. I think I'm going to ask like one more question, then we're going to open it up to you guys for your questions, which I'm sure will take us a while. Amy, before we talked a bit, and you know, you have a long history of community management, and so I just wanted to ask you if you had any tips for these guys who are trying to reduce their ticket volume by trying a community. So.
Call get satisfaction. Sorry. I mean, there's other tools out there too. Of course, I'm a big fan of it, and so it's the one that I choose to use. Not just because I'm a founder, I'm also a member. Dating myself. Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough. I can't like evangelize community enough in terms of if you want to get ticket volume down and you also want to have the benefit of an environment where you can actually engage with customers in a human way and really be focused on building relationships with them. I mean, I just don't like to think of customer support as transactional, and so many people do think of it as a transactional business, and it's just not to me. It's a relationship building opportunity, and I just feel that community, an online community space with your customers is the ideal way to do that. And you can do it in other channels as well. And we do it on Twitter and Facebook and even in how we respond to our customers in our tickets. We're constantly trying to think of that as like, you know, how do we maintain this relationship and nurture this relationship? But community is just such a fertile space for that. And you know, you get the added benefit of lower ticket volume, but you get so much more from it. So,
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So how do you keep a community thriving? How do you keep the conversation going? What sort of techniques do you recommend there?
A lot of care and feeding. You can't fool yourself into thinking that you're gonna set up a customer community and launch it, like build it and they will come. It just doesn't work that way, you know, or build it and they will self-organize and take care of themselves. Yeah, ideally down the road when you've done the hard work that you need to do to get it really going and thriving, and there's a lot of things that I don't want to, this isn't a panel on community building, so I can talk to you about that offline, but there's a lot of specific things you can do to get your community up and running and getting to the point where at some point down the road you've got customers actually helping each other and customers answering questions for you before you get in the morning to answer the question. But right now, I mean, and as I said, my community manager's in the audience, and he will attest every single topic in our community gets an answer from him or somebody on our team. Every single topic. A question does not go unanswered. A problem does not go unsolved. Even ideas get acknowledged. Praise gets thanked. I mean, everything gets an answer right now. It's very high touch. It's pretty much his full-time job is managing that community. And you just have to put that effort into it to really get it to take off. You can't just put it on autopilot.
All right, guys. So now is your chance to ask our panelists questions. I think, Laura, were you going to run around with Mike or? All right, we got like 10 minutes for questions. I can hand the first one. Remember to restate the question.
In terms of our company, the main contact is usually just like sales, and then so they ask a support question right there, and it's very technical. How do you guys suggest transferring from that, other than just forwarding it to support? Right now we don't have a tool really where we can follow the support case itself, but do you guys have any solutions on how you can, that's better and it doesn't feel like we're just dropping them off to support and not following through or checking in?
So if one of you could repeat the question before you answer it.
I think the question was, if you get an inquiry into sales and it's support related and sales feels like they're always dropping off the customer to customer support, how do you follow that ticket? For us, and in my experience outside of 99 Designs, having a good channel of internal communication is key. So as well as Amy, we use Slack. We're able to communicate together. What is actually best is we put canned macro responses into Desk that are part of some of the most frequently asked questions we get from any customer, new or current. And so that also gives the ability to someone in sales to pull that macro, read, learn from it, customize it, and send it back if that's easy enough for them. Or someone in support supports the internal salesperson in responding. Any of us will sit there and edit emails, but it allows the salesperson to take ownership, and we can do it in a way that doesn't steer the salesperson outside of the sales role, because building that initial relationship, you're not quite ready to drop the line off to another department yet. Does that help answer your question? Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. When we started off tonight, you talked about onboarding and bringing people into the fold of the company, regardless of their job, and having them sit in support initially. How long? What's the right amount of time, and what can you get away with? Because I'm sure there's a negotiation with the whatever team is dying to have this new warm body contribute. What feels right amongst the four of you?
So the question was, if you want to onboard all members of the team through the support, all members of the company through the support team, what's the right amount of time? We do a full week, so 5 days, and it's full days, and we get commitment from the managers to allow us to really use them as real support folks. So that's worked out. We've tried for the sales team a 3-day boot camp, and that's partly because they have other, part of that week is doing some other stuff. But 5 days is what most people do. We've also tried 2 weeks. It seems like a lot because then the other teams get antsy to get their members back. But because everyone agrees that it's important for these new members to actually go through the onboarding, at least at Desk, they're willing to commit at least a week. That seems to have worked for us at least.
I mentioned before, we spend a week in San Antonio as well. We actually call it Rookie Orientation. And during that time, you're learning all about the history of the company. You're learning about all the different departments that exist within Rackspace, how to get a hold of them. They put on these awesome little presentations. They dress up and they just go nuts. It's really a fun event. You're there for a week, so you gotta have fun, right? And then at the very end, we have cake, we have beer, and we just throw a huge celebration. We move the entire class, into a central area within Rackspace, and they send out secret emails to everyone, and we call it the Castle in San Antonio because it's called Windsor Park, or it was called Windsor Park Mall. But everyone, sort of comes to this central area where all the rookies are, and we cheer them on, and it's just a really exciting event to engage and welcome them to the family. But then as far as sitting with support, it's kind of hard to have a sales rep configure a 5 load balancer, right? So you can't necessarily do that, but you can certainly let them listen to support interactions and read tickets and things like that. I can't speak to how sales does it, but support, of course, we have representatives that sit with us and learn the ropes and truly understand how we interact with the customer and how we engage with our customers.
Yes. You talked about some experience regarding handling customer support, but I know some companies right now, they also have some proactive customer success besides their reactive customer success. That means not only solving tickets, but also predict some behaviors of the customers in order to reduce the number of tickets. So I would love to know do your teams like handle this type of proactive customer success as well, or like, if so, like what metrics that you're measuring?
Glad you asked that. So the question was, do any of us do any proactive customer success? And at Automatic, we actually are doing it. It's just in its infancy right now, but we're doing what we call like proactive outreach. And, we can run queries in our database to identify people that we think might be having certain kinds of issues with the product. And then we'll do a proactive outreach email to them and say, hey, it looks like you've run into like this known bug or you're having this issue. Here's some troubleshooting steps for you. And it's been incredibly successful. Very, very high open, like a 90% or more open rate on those emails because they're a personal. I mean, it's sent out, through MailChimp, but it's still a personal email from someone on the customer success team, and then a very high resolution rate in terms of seeing that, it looks like the customer followed the instructions, and actually, we've seen like a 90% open rate, a like 60 to 70% recovery rate, and then we even get like a nice handful of responses of people saying, wow, that's amazing, I was having a problem, I just hadn't taken the time to email you guys yet. Thank you so much for guessing that, they think it's magic, so it's super awesome. I mean, I love looking for opportunities like that to just surprise people. And we had an issue with our fulfillment partner this last week where they didn't ship for several days. And then, we suddenly discovered it. And so before we even started getting like loads of complaints from people saying, where's my order? We just emailed all of them and said, hey, we found out there was your order hadn't shipped yet. We are so sorry. It's shipping today, and we're going to be sending you a $10 Amazon gift card. So just doing things like that without them even having to ask for it. I just think you need to like find all those little ways you can surprise and delight people, and also like get them back going with your product and not stuck.
Any more?
Back there.
I'll come.
We will come to you.
So I know that ideally we get back to all the customer requests, all the questions, solve all the problems, and in an ideal world we do that. But in some cases we have unprofitable customers. By that I mean maybe they pay $15 a month, and then they send you an email day after day, day after day. They go up the chain, they go up to tier 2, and then they go out and say, hey, I want a chief architect to answer this question, I want an engineer to tell me why this doesn't work. At what point do you cut them off? When is enough enough? What do you do about that? I hate to be the bad guy here, but I think everybody wants to know that too.
That's a good question.
That's a good question. So the question was, at what point do you cut off a very high maintenance, low return customer, like low return on investment customer? I'm going to let someone else give you a fuller answer to that, because I think our product is a little different. It's a consumer product that people buy once and then they just use it, and we help everybody who needs help. But there definitely have been a tiny handful of customers who just continue to complain and aren't happy with any explanation we give them or any response we give them. And, so we have basically just responded with, we'd be more than happy to give you a full refund. It's just easier to have them not be our customer anymore than to deal with them. So, but it's a little bit different when you're dealing with something where somebody's paying a subscription fee, and especially if it's a B2B thing, or so. I'll let someone else take that.
So we run into this problem. I've run into this problem before, and you just have to be real with that customer and let them know, this particular solution doesn't appear to be working for you, and go research the market and see if there's a better solution for the customer, even if it's your competitor. Mm-hmm. If you can turn that customer into a promoter for your company, even if they're not your customer now, they're not going to trash talk you anymore, right? So even if you have to refer them to a competitor, do it. It's in the best interest of the company, and the customer will appreciate the honesty.
So one last question.
One. Back.
There's two.
They came in a rush.
I
All of a
know.
sudden.
Hi, so I'm from a pretty small company. There are about 3 of us who work with all the customer-facing things from sales to account management to support. At what point do you build out a dedicated support person or organization, from smashing everybody together?
When people, I should probably repeat the question, but so if you're a small team and everyone's doing everything, sales, support, account management, when do you start building out one focused, dedicated person for support and then a team? And what I was going to start off saying was when your customers start complaining that they're not getting responsive time. No, that was sort of a joke. But you have to, but not true. It is true. I mean, you have to be cognizant of, as your product evolves, how your target audience is accepting of that product. For us, we actually had, our initial customers were all through the Silicon Valley, very tech-driven people, understood how to use the product. As we grew by word of mouth, which is our primary way of growing, it went to mom and pop shops in the Midwest and all over the world and things like that. So the types of questions that we were getting and we thought people understood, they're different. When your target audience is creatives to people who are so not creative, how do you help all of them? And then that's where we were able to look at different parts of the world, who needs help the most, how do we learn from that, how do we service them in real time, trying to drive people to chat and phone support over email support when you need instant answers for an emotional experience like ours. You're choosing most commonly a logo for your business. It's pretty emotional. And so, sometimes your volume will just snowball, and of course that's when you need more people. But other times you see the evolution of what's coming in and who your customers are and who your target audience was yesterday, maybe someone else tomorrow, and you need people to focus on that and really understand. Otherwise, you're always chasing your tail.
I just wanted to add one thing to it. It's not always realistic, but when possible, for me, ideally, I think a startup should hire. That's a key hire. I feel like from the very beginning that to have somebody on the team who is owning customers and thinking about how the customers are going to be supported and how they're going to build a community with those customers. Ideally that happens before you even launch, so that you're ready to go at launch with somebody who's really thinking strategically about it and doing it right from the get-go. I know it's not always ideal. You don't always have the funds that you think you always need the developers and the biz dev people, but I think that a lot of companies tend to overlook how important and what a key hire that is from the beginning.
I was just going to say, you were joking, but I think it's actually a pretty good way to determine that. Attrition, if your attrition starts going up because you're not getting, or your customers aren't getting the right support, that's probably a good indicator of when you need to really focus on that. At least that's how I thought of it myself.
Also, look at what you're trying to offer in terms of support. Are you meeting what you're promising to your customers? If you're consistently not meeting, your obligations to your customer, then I would suggest hiring someone to handle that full time. Of course, you can look at reports and all that good stuff and put together some fancy graphs and make the finance people happy. But when it comes down to it, are your customers happy, right? If that happiness is going down, then having a dedicated support person might be better.
No.
No. All right.
Everyone wants to drink and stuff, right?
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk to everyone that will be here after, so I encourage you to come up to them and talk after. There is beer in that direction. There are snacks and cake in this direction, and also soda. And thank you to all of the panelists. Amazing job, and Ben.